Okay, Advanced Math, Unit 2, Morning Review. Number 1, those of you that have started, what did you do? Multiply everything by x to the 1/2. Yes? Did anybody change it to a fraction first? Yeah, okay. And you end up doing the same thing, so I'm going to do x to the 1/2 minus 18 over x to the 1/2 minus 3 equals 0. Elijah, do you not show this step? And it's okay if you do not. Okay, and that's fine. So he's figured out it's the same if you just multiply everything by x to the 1/2 from the get-go. But the way we're doing it now is the way we did it last unit. Okay, so add your exponents, x to what power? Add your exponents, x to the what? 1. I'm going to write the 1 minus gone. That's 18. Minus what? Okay. Now, is this trinomial guess and check? Yes. We want to put it in the right order. Which one's bigger, 1 or 1/2? The 1, so that one comes first. And I'm going to write it x to the first. What comes second? The negative 18 or the negative 3x to the 1/2? Okay, so then I put minus 3x to the 1/2 minus 18 equals 0. Double bubble and factor. What is my power going to be? 1/2. 1/2, and it looks like it's going to be plus minus. Can you guys go ahead and factor?
Plus 3 minus 6.
Plus 3 minus 6. Everybody agree? Okay. Set each one, equal it to 0. X to the 1/2 equals negative 3. X to the 1/2 equals 6. On this one right here that I'm pointing to, what am I going to do to both sides? Times by 2 or raise to the power of 2? And why do I raise to the power of 2? Because 2 is the reciprocal of 1/2. And when I raise to the reciprocal, they will undo. Do you guys agree? Okay, so I multiply 1/2 times 2 is gone. What does x equal? All right, do I do the same thing on the other side?
No.
Why not? This is even, and that is negative. The 2 together, we cross it out, no solution. Will I have to write no solution on the test if I have this answer over here? No, just put this one there and you're good. Questions? Okay, yes.
It's on number 2 though.
Okay, give me your question on number 2.
So for substitution, you said that we can plug it in like at the end of the problem. I've solved all the way to like my u equals a number, and I can plug it in and then just solve it like
yes.
that. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. All right. So you guys used u. What did you let u equal?
X minus 2.
Okay. So u to the 2/3 minus 8u plus 16 equals 0. Are any of you not using u? Oh.
I'm using W.
Not you're using w. Is anybody not using substitution at all? And is that okay? Yes. Don't staple it together. Paper clip it. Oh, there's paper clips on my desk. All right. U to what power? 1/3. It looks like it's going to be minus and minus. 4. For both of them?
Yeah.
All right, so solve u to the 1/3 equals 4. Do I have to write it twice if they're the same? No. All right, what do I raise both sides to? 3rd power. What does u equal? 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. And this was the question Mateo asked. Now at the end is when you plug u in, Yes, you could do it before, but sometimes that messes people up and they start to move numbers around when they're not supposed to. X minus 2 equals 64. Solve, what does x equal? Is that one that you have to check for extraneous solutions? No. All right. Number 3, do you have to check for extraneous solutions? Yes. Go ahead and try that one. All right. What looks a little different with this one? Right in the beginning, what happened? Okay, we've had 2 radicals before, but are they usually held together with multiplication? No, usually it's addition and we subtract one over to the other side, right? Okay, who remembers what I've said when there's 2 like this together, what are you allowed to do? Okay, I heard 2 answers. Can you go ahead and square the whole thing, square and square individually? Because it's multiplied. I heard somebody else say write it under 1 square root. Could you do that as well? Does it matter which way you approach it? No. Square it right off and then multiply it together, or multiply and then square. It's up to you. All right, since I wrote it this way, I'm going to continue. So I get x squared plus 5x equals 36. I'll let you guys go ahead and finish. Can anybody tell me what you factored it to? So you got x equals -9 and +4. And we're good? No, what do we have to do? This is where you have to do your check work. Now I've had kids ask, you know, do I have to show my check work? How am I going to know if you're checking or not? Right, extraneous solutions. If one's extraneous and you write that down, I know you didn't check. Okay, what do you want to check first? -9. Now, should I plug it into right here, the first line that I wrote down, or the original printed? Original print on the paper. All right, so if I can do this, we said we're plugging in -9. Square root of -9 times the square root of -9 plus 5 equals 6. Square root of -9 times, what's -9 plus 5? -4. If you were to use imaginaries, is it going to work? No. If you were to, first off, can we square root a negative? No. So you know it's not going to work. If you did go through and work it out further, when you work with imaginaries, you take out imaginaries before you multiply these 2 numbers together. So what would that give you? 3i and 2i, which is 6i squared, which is -6. Does that equal +6? No. If you end up with the square root of a negative, you don't have to go any further. Is it going to work? No. Got it? Square root of a negative, we're not going to use the i's, so you could just stop right there and say, no, it's not going to work. All right, so not -9. Has anybody checked 4 yet?
Yeah.
Is 4 a little easier to check? Did anybody just check it in their head? You get 2, 3, 2 times 3 is 6. It works. Okay, so your only solution is 4. So if you put 4 and -9 on the test, I would know you're not checking. All right. This one, it's very similar to the one somebody just asked. I don't know if it was the one from worksheet 6, but yeah, do you guys remember it? I said you could either square first or multiply both sides first. Any preferences? Multiply, okay, good. So this is different from the way I did it earlier. So multiply by the square root of x plus 6. Since it's being multiplied, am I allowed to write that under 1 radical? So what is that? X squared plus 6x all under 1 radical. Would you guys agree? Is anybody squaring first? Just wondering. because it is okay. All right. So let's check at the end. Square both sides. X squared plus 6x equals 16. X squared plus 6x minus 16 equals 0. Those of you that did it the other way, did we end up here eventually? All right, so you decide. It looks like it's going to be a plus and a minus. I heard somebody say it. It's plus minus 2. X equals negative 8, positive 2. Right here, when I plug it in, what's going to happen? Right there, it's square root of negative 8. Is it going to work? No. You don't have to plug it all the way in. If the first thing you, like over here, the square root of negative, was it negative 9? Not going to work. Same thing here. Square root of negative 8 is not going to work. Yes?
So if you end up with a negative, is it like always not there?
I'm glad you asked that. That's not always the case. Sometimes the negatives work. You really do just have to check them. Sometimes negatives work. You just have to check them. Does the 2 work? Did anybody try it? It does. Does anybody want to see the check work for it? Yep. Okay. So, you know what? I can squeeze it over here. All right. Square root of, what are we plugging in? 2 equals 4 over the square root of 2 plus 6. Okay, root 2 equals 4 over what? Root 8? And you said that's 2 root 2? Okay, so root 2 equals 4 over 2 root 2. Does the 4 and the 2 reduce? This right here? Okay, so root 2 equals, what is that? 2 over root 2. Rationalize this one on the right. What do you multiply the top and bottom by? Root 2. Now, have I told you guys, do you have to rationalize? No, but if you're checking work, to check if they're equal, do you have to rationalize? Yes. What do I get? 2 root 2 over root 4 is 2. That's the whole reason why we do it, right? To get rid of the radical. Does it reduce? Does it equal? Yes. Got it? Okay. So x equals 2 is the only solution. Questions on anything that we've done so far? Yes?
On number 3, why did you bring the x into and not move it over?
The x into...
To start off for number 3.
Right here?
Yeah.
You know what? Very good question. Do you guys agree usually we move things over to equal to 0? Yes? The reason is because it's a radical. Because there's the steps for radicals were isolate the radical. So this radical is already by itself. Step 2 was to undo the radical, so I don't want to move that over if I'm going to square both sides. So if I, yeah? Is that what you were asking?
Or, like, right at the beginning, why didn't you move the root x over?
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I did say it and I didn't write it, so let me explain that a little bit better. Usually, we're used to seeing that with a plus sign. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And then I would move the root x over, I would subtract it and double distribute, square both sides. But it's not addition, it is what?
Oh, multiplication.
Okay, so will you have some on the test that are multiplication? Do you need to remember, don't move it over, write it as one radical. Yep, whether you distribute now or later is up to you. Make sense? I'm glad you asked, and make that mental note to not make a mistake on the test. Okay, moving along is number 5, 1 we should be checking as well.
Yes.
All right, so going back to your question that you just asked, Sterling, here, would I put these radicals as 1 or move it over? Move it over. Good job. So root 3x plus 16 equals 4 plus root x, or root x plus 4. It's up to you on how you want to write it. And I've said this like every day since we did this lesson. Can I square, square, square? Individual little squares. No, because of the plus sign, I have to quantity squared, which means I'm going to double distribute. Inverse operations undo each other. Write this one twice. And do your double distribution. 16 plus what? Plus 4 root x plus 4 root x plus x, because root x times root x is just x. Anybody feeling a little bit better about this test than the last one?
Yes.
Good, good, good. 3x plus 16 equals 16 plus what? 8 root x plus x. We had one when I was going over the review questions that at this point had a radical on each side. Does this one have a radical on each side? No. So I'm going to go straight to isolating this guy. What am I going to subtract over? An x and a 16. Good. What does that give me? 2x, is that equals, I heard 8 root x? Okay.
This works.
Yes.
This is where I got to this point, but can you divide the 2 over rather than divide the 8 over?
Yes. Good question. She's asking, usually we divide the 8 over. You could and reduce it, but she said, could you if you wanted to divide the 2 over and just get rid of the fraction? Do you guys want to do that? It's up to you.
I've never seen it.
If it bothers you, don't do it. Do you guys want me to continue that way?
Yeah.
Okay. So what does that leave? X equals 4 root x. I challenge some of you guys to not divide, just leave both numbers there because it's being multiplied. Can you leave the 2 and can you leave the 8? Try it and see if we end up in the same spot. At this point, do I square both sides? Yeah, square and square. When I square, do you agree it's going to be x squared on the left side? And on the right side, do I have to square the 4 that's not inside the radical? Yes, what is that? 16x. Now, you had one like this on the quiz. I addressed it at the beginning of class, and I told you guys, don't mess this up because kids they get this far, and they mess this up right here. Does anybody remember the mistake you should never make? Divide by x. Because dividing by x, you end up losing an answer. So if you divide by x, stop yourself and say, oh, Mrs. Torres said I shouldn't do that. I treat it just like I would a trinomial factoring problem. I get everything over to one side. After I do that, what kind of, I heard somebody say it, GCF. What's my GCF the way I'm doing it? X minus, you may have done a different number. Is x times x squared? Minus x times what is 16x? Set them both equal to 0. This one on the outside, because it's a variable, x equals what? 0. The one on the inside?
16.
Okay. Did anybody not reduce the 2 the way Gabby had suggested and left the numbers in there? Now, initially our work looked different. Yes? But in the end, was it the same?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to put it up there just in case anybody did it that way and did not come up with the same. So I did not divide the 2 here. So you said, oh, you're not going to do it that way? Then you don't have to. Leave them there. 2 squared is 4. 8 squared is 64. Subtract it over. Initially, does our work look different? Yep. Those of you that did it this way, did you take out a 4x?
Yeah.
When you took out a 4x and solved, did you still get 0?
Yeah.
Left behind x minus 16, did you still get 16?
Yeah.
Yes? Yes. Did you want a picture of the backside or look at
It didn't be online. Okay, yeah.
the video will be? Okay. All right. Questions? Anybody feel like this is most likely the way they're going to do it? Leave it square?
Wait, so then you took out a 4x like a GCF?
Yes. Right here, 4x squared minus 64x. GCF is 4x. And then when you solve that, you end up with the exact same answer. Does anybody feel like they would do it this way? Divide it out? And it's totally up to you. Do we get the same answer? Yes. Yes, we do. Questions on number 5? Okay. Number 6. What should I do on the right-hand side?
That check the fraction?
Okay, I'm going to do that first. Double bubble. Can anybody tell me what that comes out to be? X plus 4, x minus 3. And this next piece, you most likely learned last year, I'm not sure, but we did it first unit this year. What do I do right here? Take out a negative. And that 5 over x plus 4 stays. The minus becomes a plus 7 over x minus 3. Do you guys agree? All right. Now, last unit, if it was like this, I would multiply by what's missing and find a common denominator and so forth. Since there's an equal sign, I treat it like a complex fraction, meaning I do what? Clear. Multiply everything by the same thing. What's my common denominator? Okay, I really have run out of room. X plus 4, x minus 3. Will it all reduce on the right-hand side? Okay. X plus 4, x minus 3. I'm sorry that is so messy. The x plus 4 is gone, leaving behind the x minus 3. Because it's so messy, are you guys okay if I reduce on the next, distribute on the next step? Okay, plus 7, the x minus 3 reduces, leaving behind what? And then x plus 4 equals 3. Typically, I would distribute all right one step, but it was getting kind of messy. All right, you have 5x minus what? Because it's a positive 7, you don't have to worry about the negative. Plus 7x plus what? 28 equals 3. Now, I forgot to check something in the beginning. Anybody know what it was? Extraneous solutions. What are my extraneous solutions? Now, I really have run out of room, so I'll put it right here. X cannot equal -4 or 3. That's for number 6. So as long as I don't end up with those answers, I'm good. You guys know how to finish it from there? What do you get when you add all your x's together? 12x minus 13. Plus 13 is correct. Equals 3. Yes. All right, and then subtract the 13. You get 12x equals negative. Divide and reduce. What does x equal? Good. Is that one of my restrictions? So is this answer a good answer? A safe answer? Yes, ask me a question.
You divide it by 12?
Right here, because 5 and 7x, 5x, 7x is 12x. Negative 15 and 28 was positive 13. I didn't show the subtraction. Negative 10, divide by negative 12, and they
Where
reduced.
did you get that negative 10?
Right here. Again,
Okay, so the first step that you did was subtract the 13.
yes, and that's the part I didn't, and I should have. It's okay, so what's 3 take away 13? 3 take away 13 is negative 10. Do you guys agree? And then divide both sides by 12. And reduce. Yes?
So on the last question, number 5,
Uh-huh.
we wouldn't have to check our answers. Is that a valid-
Very good question, and I meant to address that, and I did not. Thank you very much. Is there a possibility that there's an extraneous solution on number 5? Yes. Should I have checked them? Yes. They may both work, and I would get lucky, but if they did not both work, is there a possibility I'd get it wrong? Yes. Very good job. Did anybody else catch that I didn't check it? A few of you. Has anybody checked it already on their own?
Yeah, they both.
They both work. Okay, so they worked, we got lucky, but should I have checked it? Yes.
So how do you know the difference between what and check?
Okay, so how do we know when to check? The ones you have to plug into the original problem is when there's a what?
Radical.
In the beginning. Now this one here, you don't have to plug into the original, you just check to your, what are these called? The restrictions. Check to your restrictions. So you don't have to plug -5, 6. Please don't plug that into this crazy fraction. You can, but it's not necessary. As long as it's not a restriction, you're good. Here, you plug it in, and everything else, I mean, you don't have to check for extraneous. You can, but it's not necessary. Okay, does anybody want to see the check work on number 5? Yes? Okay, so on number 5, I'm going to plug in 0 first. X equals 0. 3 times blank plus 16 minus the square root of blank equals 4. And what am I plugging in? 0. What's 3 times 0?
0.
Plus 16.
16.
Minus, what's the square root of 0?
0.
And square root of 16. 4 minus 0, does that equal 4?
Yes.
Yes. All right, what was the other answer? 16. Yeah, right there. So plugging it into the original. All right, so I'm going to try x equals 16. Square root of 3 blank plus blank minus the square root of blank equals 4. So 3 blank plus 16. And what do I put in the blanks? All right, can anybody tell me what 3 times 16 is? 48 plus 16. What's the square root of 16? Okay, what's 48 plus 16?
64.
Square root of 64. And 8 minus 4, does it work?
Yes.
Messed it up. 4 equals 4. We are good. Questions? Yes? And again, Andrea, good job at catching that. Any questions on this one? All right. Any questions on knowing when you have to check? She asked that and I answered. Any questions?
So just to clarify, so whenever there's a radical and a question, okay.
Yes. If it's something like x to the 1/2, you don't have to check those. It's more like the original big square root type problems. All right. And here you don't have to plug in, but you do on the fractions have to compare your answer to the restrictions. That you do have to do. There was a hand up? No?
I want to add, just got a quick question.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Is that 3 multiplied by 1, or is that
3, no, it's 3.5.
just 3.5?
Yes, did you treat it as 3.5?
Yeah.
Do you have an answer? Okay, let me know. I have an answer for you to compare. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I got.
they have my answer key, so I'll give it to you right now. Yes? For number 8, oh, I got 176 over 3. Yeah? Okay, we'll do it together in just a second. Any questions here? Guys, do you need to show work on the test? Yes. All right, let's continue, and it looks like we are kind of running out of time, so I'm going to speed things up just a smidge. Number 7, you see that on the test, and you recognize what?
The square. Well, the
Substitution, right? Is it helpful if you do it from the get-go? Yes, because then you're not tempted to distribute the way we usually do. All right. Please remember that for the test. We multiply everything by what? U squared, or whatever letter you may be using. And if you don't want to do substitution, you do not have to, as long as you recognize and do not distribute. All right. Which way do you want to move things, right or left? Right, because it's positive. So minus, what does that give me? 0 equals 6u squared minus 5u minus 4. Yes or no? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Double bubble. Right here, I subtracted this is positive, so I subtracted it to the other side. Positive 4, I subtracted because the u squared was positive. I wanted to leave it on that spot. 6 and 1 or 2 and 3? 2u and 3u. All right, and what's my last number? 4? Plus 1 minus 4. Does that work? Positive 3, negative 8? Yes? All right, so what does u equal?
X minus 2.
I'm sorry, before I put this in, when I solve this, u equals positive or negative?
Negative.
And over here, u equals,
4 over 3.
and then we plug u back in. Now, if you plug u back in here, what you can do, you're not going to end up with this messy fraction at the end, but if you save it at the end like we usually do, have I given you the tools to clear it? What would I clear the first one by? 2x minus 4 equals 2x minus 4 equals negative, that reduces, so negative 1. Do you guys see how that works? Yeah? Add,
The 1/2, that's negative, right?
yes. But now it's negative 1 because I reduced the 2. So what does it become? You add your 5, add your 4. 2x equals what? 3, divide your 2, x equals 3/2. There's not a square root here, so I don't have to check it, but I do have to check for extraneous solutions, which I did not write down. What can x not equal?
2.
2. All right, continue on this one. What would you multiply everything by?
3.
3x minus 6 equals what?
4.
Add 3x equals, is that 10?
Yeah.
Divide x equals,
10 over 3.
does this a conflict with my restriction?
No.
No, so those two answers are your solutions. Okay. We had one like number 8 in the review that you guys asked, and what did we decide to do? And it will look this way on the test. What did we decide to do? Distribute. So I said just multiply and reduce at the end if it reduces. So 1 times 1 is 1, so 1 over 12. The x is not in the denominator. Minus 1/3. Be careful, you're distributing a negative. So negative 1 over what? 1 over 48. I'm going to space it out just a little bit. Minus 1 over 3 minus 1 over 48. X minus or plus? Plus what? 1/6. Now, when you're working with a mixed number, this is a mixed number, and you want to clear a fraction, can you leave it as a mixed number?
No.
You have to change it to an improper fraction, and I'm hoping everybody remembers that from elementary school. Multiply and add, what do you get? 7, and the denominator stays 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so 3.5, you do 2 times 3 plus 1. What's 2 times 3?
6.
Plus 1.
7.
So you do 7 over original denominator. Right? Long time? You guys did. You guys kind of remember learning it in elementary school? It's been a long while. Okay. Nothing reduces, so we're going to go straight to clearing. What is my biggest number? My common denominator will be 48 or bigger. Does every one of these numbers divide into 48?
Yes.
So then I'm going to reduce. If it didn't, 48 times 2, and you just keep getting bigger until you find a number they all divide into evenly. All right, I'll let you guys do some reducing, and when you reduce, you should have an equation with no fractions. What do you guys have? 4x minus 16 minus
X.
plus
8.
equals 2 is 1, 48 is 24, 7 times 24. Okay, could you have done 7 times 48 and then divide by 2? This part here?
Yeah.
You don't have to do it the way I did it. You could, what was the bottom number? 2?
2.
You could multiply, I'm going to do it over here. I don't have a calculator, or can anybody do it in their head? What's 7 times 48? Nope.
336.
336 over 2 times 1?
2.
2. And then reduce that. Plug it in your calculator. 336 divided by 2 is?
168.
Yeah. Or cross reduce. Did anybody cross reduce instead?
Yeah.
It's your choice. All right. Finish it off. How many x's do I end up with on the left side once I combine? What is it?
3x.
3x minus
176.
minus 8. You're a step ahead of me. Okay.
I'll just get 0 and try it as soon as possible.
All right, and then we add the 8. 3x equals 176. Divide by 3. Now, on the worksheet, it came out evenly. Does 3 divide into 176?
No.
Then leave it. Don't change it to a decimal. Just leave it as it is. You don't even have to change it to a mixed number. Why do extra work if I'm not making you? You're done with that problem. Now, the answer may scare you, and you're like, oh, I don't like the answer, but it works. Any questions? All right. True, false comes up in just about every test, and I keep telling you guys, kids struggle here, so let's pay attention. We all ready? True or false? The solution to this set for x squared equals 25 is plus or minus 5. Okay. If you're not sure, plug it in. I'm going to solve it first. If I had x squared equals 25 and I square rooted both sides, would I get plus or minus 5? Check it. Blank squared equals 25. Blank squared equals 25. If I put a 5 in and square it, will I get positive 25? If I put a negative 5 in and square it, will I still get a positive 25? So is this true or false? Okay. Next one. X cubed equals 64. The solution set is plus or minus 4. Okay, let's try. X to the third equals 64. I square root both sides or cube root both sides? And no plus or minus, just straight cube root. What is the cube root of 64? Do I put plus or minus like I did over there? No. Did we ever put plus or minus when we cube root both sides?
No.
Square root, fourth root, even root. Now, if you thought to put the plus or minus by accident, should you still check it? Yes, blank to the third equals 64, and check each one. Plug in the 4. What's 4 times 4 times 4? Plug in the negative 4. Is negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 equal 64? What does it equal? Which does not equal positive 64, so what would we say about this? True or false? All right, so when do you put the plus or minus when the exponent is? Even. Do you put plus or minus if it is odd? No, you do not. Even? 2, 4, 6, 8. Odd? No. 3, 5, 7, 9. Any odd number? You do not. All right. C. The solution set for x to the 1/2 equals negative 6 is 36. Okay, so I check it and I do this and I square and I square and I get 36, so I say true. Why is that? Why am I wrong? Yes. Good. He said. Okay, so have I been showing you both ways, solving it and plugging it in? Okay, so I solved it and it looks like it's true. He said plug it in. Blank to the 1/2 equals 36, and what are we plugging in? Did I do it wrong? Thank you. Equals what? Negative 6, and what am I plugging in? 36. All right, so 36 to the 1/2 is the square root. Is the square root of 30? What does the square root of 36 equal?
Plus or minus 6.
Just the square root, not when you square root of both sides. Just the straight square root is just 6. Does that equal negative 6? No. So it's not true. It is false. Can anybody tell me just by looking how you're going to tell it's false? We've talked about it in class. It's even, and that is negative. Be careful with that. Questions? Okay. The solution set for x squared equals 6x is 6. True? Plug 6 in. 6 squared is 36. 6 times 6 is 36. True or false?
Because there's another one.
Okay. Now, listen. Solution set means all of the answers. Not is 6 a possible solution. So if they asked, is 6 a possible solution? True. Is it the solution set? No. Now, if you did this, just plugged it in, and you said yes, it's wrong. If what they're trying to get you to see is, if I divide by x, I get x equals 6. And what have I told you guys about dividing by a variable? You can't do it because you lose an answer. Now, I'm hoping everybody remembers how to solve this, because I told you guys kids mess up on this part on the test. We treat it just like we would a trinomial. It's not a trinomial, but we treat it the same way. And this factoring is what? And what are my two solutions? So my solution set is 0, 6, not just 6. Does that make sense? Questions?